given that this intersection should happen, you're saying that this is already happening for you, and how do you plan to kind of leverage that?
I mean, what's interesting in terms of the whole fusion work is right from the outset, and of course this, you know, strangely may have been predictive, but it wasn't intended to be, of the situation we're in. What we felt was that fusion skills cannot be delivered by one sector on its own. So we can't rely solely on schools to do it. We can't rely solely on business to do it. We can't rely solely on the charitable sector to do it, or the NGOs to do it, the non-governmental organizations. We can't rely on policymakers. It also requires the input of creatives, and creatives in cultural institutions, in micro businesses, in all sorts of different ways. So right from the outset, it was acknowledged with Fusion that everybody needs to come to the table. And I use a picnic analogy in saying that everybody has to bring something, and then you have to be willing to share it. And if you're not willing to do that, it's probably not the right thing for you to go into. So whether you're a school sharing with other schools in your area, whether you're a school sharing with business or business sharing with school, you have to come with a spirit of the picnic, which is, you know, I'm bringing what I've made that I think is as great as it can be, but I'm going to, you know, I mightn't even get to taste any of it because someone else is going to be tasting bits of that. But it's really important because we're all sharing, and we're sharing a feast together in a social way. And I think the point around coming together is essential. We couldn't have managed these last few weeks in education without the generosity and support of business. And what's interesting is now that they're doing it, business is finding that they're learning how children approach technology quite differently. They're learning how to adapt their tools. They're learning how to develop and change. I think we will follow this period with a real renaissance in technological development as well, because I think there's going to be this wonderful mixing of all different disciplines and mixing of all different experiences from different people. And it's going to lead to wonderful steps forward for education, for technology, for the arts and cultural field, because they're having to define even, what does it mean to go to the theatre now? What does it mean to have an exhibition, you know? So we're asking really basic questions, and together we're coming up with some superb solutions that cross across all of these areas.
I love the picnic analogy. I just think it's fascinating. It's so untechnology, if you follow me. It's like, it's warm and it's friendly and so much packed in that word. I just think it's fabulous. And that reminds me to ask you about your upcoming Fusion conference. I guess it is kind of your version of a picnic.
It is
coming up soon. Tell me a little bit about it. It's in October, and who's attending, and what are you planning to get out of it?
Yeah, each year we host a big picnic, we could say, which is for all of those people around the world who are interested in fusion. This year in October, on October the 9th, we're going to be hosting it virtually, and we hope we may be able to also have some people together in a real space. Normally what we do is we do invite people from all very different sectors. We're quite careful about how we curate our picnic guests. So we do think very importantly about the balance of different groups within that space, because we don't want there to be a sort of dominant group. So we're very careful about making sure we have everybody positioned as experts, and they are all experts. We even have young people, and we say, you know, the young people are experts, and honestly some of them really are. So one of the young people who came last year runs 6 internet companies, and he's only 14 years of age, and he has highly successful internet companies. So but they're also obviously experts in being young, which is an important expertise as well. So what we try to do is we have people from different sectors, but also importantly we have global places who have really made great steps forward, and I hope California might be there as a global place. So we have places from all over the world who have already started making those partnerships between education, between business, between cultural institutions, and they're already starting to work towards making these fusion skills a reality. And what we've tried to do in the meeting last year was we set a challenge. So we had challenges around definition of these skills, challenges around how we measure and assess them, because we actually decided to do the hardest job first. You know, this is always a good way to get the housework done. So we all put our minds and our attention to those challenges. This year we'll be very much looking about how you make it systemic. So how you move from a place, a smallish area, to expand that either across different sectors, or to we talk about make the dots bigger and then join the dots up. So how do you expand what you're doing, whether it's in your school or your class, or it might be your state or your country? How do you make that bigger? And then how do you join that up with other initiatives that are happening around you or in an adjoining country, or you know, to make sure that we're really building that up. And then we've already started to put in place the 2021 event, which will be in June 2021 in London. We hope in person and virtually. And it's going to focus very much on, okay, if we can get systemic change in a wide scale across the world, how do we also address those groups or people who may be left behind? Because then we have to really, as a whole community, make sure everyone's coming to the picnic table and everyone has plenty to eat at that table. So, so we really will be turning our attention then to saying, okay, we've got it now systemic, we've got it now happening. How do we make sure any different parts of that picture that are not getting that inclusion are included? And so that's the real focus for 2021.